What's up, Magic Makers? Drew here, and I just want to say thanks real quick to everyone who has checked out my channel and subscribed. I love interacting with you guys, and I'm really grateful that you take time out of your busy days to spend with me. So thank you very much. Today I want to talk about totems and guides. Let's start with totems. What is a totem? Well, a totem is actually a sacred object, a symbol, or a spirit animal that is associated with a tribe, a family, or an individual. So essentially, a totem is a physical representation of a spirit animal. For example, my spirit animal is the golden eagle. So I have this little eagle carved in stone, and my teacher crystal, when I look inside, I see an eagle in the inclusion. So for me, these are my totems. So what is a spirit animal? A spirit animal is a guide or companion that is with us for life. They give us power and wisdom, and typically you're going to have one totem, one spirit animal. We can work with any animal medicine we wish. For example, I've worked with spider medicine, I've worked with stink bug medicine, I've worked with dragonfly medicine, I've worked with snake, wolf, deer medicine. The list goes on and on. You can work with any spirit animal you wish to learn and grow, but we do not choose our spirit animal. Our spirit animal is with us from birth to death, whether we are aware of it or not. Now, you can say that's given to us by a higher power, that the spirit animal chooses us, or that we made some sort of contract on the other side before we came into the earth plane. I'm not 100% on how that is supposed to work. You could look into traditional ideas and lore about that. But just because we want our spirit animal to be a certain animal, that doesn't mean that it is. We can work with that animal, we can learn from that animal, but it isn't necessarily our spirit animal, our assigned totem animal. So how do we figure out what our spirit animal is? Well, I only know the way I did, but I have looked into it, and there are different ways that are put forth as methods. It's often said that we should look into animals that we are drawn to, animals that intrigue us, because it's not necessarily just that we have an affinity for and we like this creature. It may be something deeper. We may be drawn to this animal for a higher purpose, a deeper, more spiritual purpose. It is also said that we should look at animals that we fear, animals that disgust us and disturb us, because we are having such a visceral, strong reaction to the animal. There may, again, be a very deep, higher meaning for this reaction. The animal may actually appear in your life, whether that be physically or symbolically. And when I say this, I don't mean that you are constantly seeking out this animal or symbols of this animal. I mean that they just come to you without you even trying. Now, I would suggest that doing a shamanic journey is a great way to meet your spirit animal. This is the method that I used to try to meet my spirit animal. Now, I originally met the golden eagle in a very, very powerful, physical, unusual encounter. But I'm not really going to get into that. I have a video, A Peek Into My Path, where I talk about that. But I didn't put two and two together. I didn't understand. I wasn't even actively on my path. But once I did the journey and I asked to meet my spirit animal and the golden eagle stepped forward, I had a very visceral reaction. I immediately linked the two, that encounter and the eagle standing before me, and understood, put two and two together 4 years later. But I'm not sure on what the best method for meeting a totem is, because I only know my own personal experience. There are many teachings associated with animal medicine, they come from different tribes. So depending on where you look, you may find different answers. You may find different teachings associated with particular animals. And it's just because each tribe had its own teaching. Some may be similar and some may be very different. I personally have two sources that I consult when it comes to animal medicine. This medicine card book here, it actually came with a tarot deck. I don't really work with the tarot deck. The color puts me off. The colors of the artwork, I don't know, it puts me off. I can't get into that deck. But I absolutely adore this book. And this book is a collaborative effort from Jamie Sams and David Carson, and then the illustrations are by Angela Wernick. Here's an example of what it looks like. The illustration matches the card, and then below there's this little sort of poetic, sums up the energy of the animal in a way. Like for instance, dear, so gentle and loving you are, the flower of kindness and embrace from afar. And then it gives all this information about deer medicine. There is something very lovely about this book. It deeply resonates with me. I adore the information in this book. I highly recommend it if you want to work with animal medicine. The teachings in this book are actually derived from 9 different Native American tribes, including Choctaw, Lakota, Aztec, Cheyenne, Cherokee, and more. And I just feel it's a really valuable resource. The second resource I use is Animal Speak. And this is by Ted Andrews, and I'm not going to get into whether or not he is qualified for this topic. I really enjoy working with this book. One of the things I love about this book is that he talks about the animals from a global perspective. So if there's a Chinese, Japanese, European, Native American idea, lore, influence from the animal or insect or what have you, he will talk about that. And I like that. It may not resonate with me, but at least it's there for me to look at and see if it resonates with me. So I appreciate that. He also talks about the behaviors and attributes of each animal and how that manifests in working with that animal. For example, the Arctic fox is able to blend into its environment. So one of the teachings of fox is camouflage, the ability to blend in when necessary. That kind of thing. I enjoy that. I like, again, seeing if that resonates and working with it. This book is set up in the beginning. There's all this information and exercises and what have you. And then you have birds, beasts, and insects. Those are my 2 main resources when looking into animal medicine. So how do we work with our spirit animals? Well, I can only tell you my experience. I'm walking this path all alone. I research and read a lot, but my firsthand experience is always more powerful for me, tangible. I don't even have people close to me that actively work with spirit animals. I know some people who feel that they have totems, that they have spirit animals, but for them it seems like it's more of a sort of thematic thing in their life, that the animal fits this theme, or that they're drawn to the animal, or they don't actively work with their totems. How do I work with Brother Eagle? Well, he's always there when I'm in journey. He's always right there with me. He usually kind of hangs back and watches me, but if I get distracted by the shinies, he will redirect me. It happens. There are, in my experience of journey, it's an expansive world, and I get to choose where I go and what I do. But sometimes there's a particular direction I need to go in, and I'm not drawn there. I'm actually drawn to something prettier over here, and Brother Eagle will direct me in the right direction. And he's always there looking over me. I always feel safe. I know I'm watched over and that no harm will come to me. I actually feel like Brother Eagle sits over my left shoulder, and he is always there. Another way that I have worked extensively with Brother Eagle is, one of the teachings of Eagle medicine is to sort of rise above a situation and see it from a higher perspective. And I have definitely worked on that with him, and it's much easier for me to do so now from years of his influence and wisdom and teachings in my life. I'm not really going to get into his sort of personality because I think that probably varies. I consider him to be very similar to just a regular guide, except he doesn't communicate the same way, and he's much more reserved, I think. He steps in only when necessary or when asked to. My primary guide is right up against me. Brother Eagle is back just a bit. That's my experience of it. I don't know. So, speaking of guides, let's talk about guides. What is a guide? Well, obviously a guide is a guide. This is a spiritual being that's assigned to us, essentially, and they're with us from birth till death. There are different theories on how this happens, but the one I run into most often is that we sort of set up a spiritual contract before we come into this earth plane with another spiritual being so that they'll be there and have our back and watch over us and look out for us. Now, the number of guides that any individual might have can vary, but typically you're going to have a primary guide, and this is the guide that looks over everything, is in charge of everything, and can deal with everything with regards to you. Now, just like with totems, we have this primary, but we can call in other guides, or other guides may come in from time to time to assist us when need be, and these are usually referred to as helper guides. There is a whole list of them I'm going to be looking at because I can't do it off the top of my brain. So let's see, there are what is referred to as karmic guides, and of course these would be guides that would come in to help you deal with karmic garbage, whether it be passed through your ancestral line or it be from past lives, what have you. There are protector guides. It's kind of self-evident, they come in when we're particularly vulnerable and need extra protection in our life for whatever reason. Astral guides, of course, they assist us on the astral plane. Healer guides, if we are in a position that we need healing, or if we are in a position that we need to learn to be healers, these guides can step in and assist us. Joy guides. There are a lot of people in the world who suffer with depression and anxiety, and I'm not saying a joy guide could fix that, but calling in a joy guide to assist us in finding where the joy is in our life, or where we can create the joy in our life, could definitely be helpful. Messenger guides, obviously, they just come in and tell us messages that we need when we need them. Teacher guides, again, come in to teach us something specific that we need to know to move on in our path or to grow or what have you. Then there is what is referred to as timing guides, and in all honesty, I'm not 100% on what that means. If I had to guess, my interpretation would be that there are guides that step in to either assist us in finding the right timing to get that job, that promotion, that love, whatever, or they step in at the perfect time to help us do those things. Honestly, I'm not 100% on that. Now, the primary guide that you have could easily fit into one or more of these categories. You could have a karmic guide. Your primary guide could also be a karmic guide, or they could be a karmic timing guide. Your primary guide could be a joy guide, or a teacher guide, or a teacher joy guide. Like, there could be any combination of these things. So how do we meet our guides? Again, my personal experience with this was unusual. I just asked for a name and I got one, and I followed that name, and it led me down a very, very deep rabbit hole. But I don't think that that's typically going to be the experience. I would say that both meditation and journey are great ways to meet your guides. I met not only my spirit animal guide in journey, but I also met a healing guide in journey. I know a woman who has a method that I have seen varying degrees of success with, and I think that's probably down to the individual, not the method. So she would have you sit sort of and get into this really calm state, almost a meditative state, and then put yourself in an environment that you're very comfortable with, that you know like the back of your hand and you love, whether that's outdoor, whether it's a store, whether it's a room, whether it's your childhood home, wherever that is. And then visualize it very clearly and focus on different details. And then after a moment, you notice someone is behind you. And you turn, and then you see who that is, and you pay attention to every detail you can make out about them. You can ask them their name, that kind of thing. Again, I've seen varying degrees of success with this method, but that's probably down to the individual. Also, there is a witchy YouTuber whom I adore named Azrael, Angel of Melancholy. And he has a video up about meeting your guides. And so I'm going to link that in the description. And even if you've already met your guide, you should check out his channel because he comes at stuff from a magical, logical, almost scientific mindset, and that resonates with me so deeply. It brings me joy. I love it. You should definitely check out his channel. So yeah, that's what my research has led me to, as well as my own understanding and experiences with totem spirit animals and guides, spirit guides. Thanks for listening as always, and until next time, much love and gratitude.